a video of the Pluto generations and what we're kind of currently seeing with each generation overall, or what I have observed so far, as well as what our role in as a generation group for several of the Pluto in whatever sign it is right now. This kind of came out just because of the world events that are going on and the multitude of things that are just kind of interesting to see, kind of unfortunate to see as well. But at the same time, if we were not aware or hit with reality, it would just keep going like a dysfunctional pattern system, belief system, whatever it is, that will just keep going over on and on and on. So as usual, each generation kind of brings something to the table, what they were born here with. It's just ingrained into us. I'm a Pluto in Scorpio generation, so we are the deep healers. So as the Pluto and Scorpio generation was born, it was slowly, as we kind of grew up, we're kind of bringing our own unique talents into the world, which for this generation, you might have noticed that like therapy has become a lot more popular and not as taboo as it once was in the past. A sense of deep healing, thinking about your childhood trauma, overcoming it, healing it, however you want to put that into words, and then in some sort of way bringing that talent into the world, if not doing that as a career or anything like that, finding that it's more important, or just creating deep transformative change within yourself, as well as just existing. The Pluto and Scorpio generation has brought along with it a lot of like very crazy events, as you have probably noticed, because Scorpio is very deep and psychological, and there's a lot of hidden truths, secrets, skeletons in the closet that no one really wants to talk about. It's very subconscious, very intuitive, and it's very destructive. It's the death and rebirth, or the phoenix rising from the ashes, but it keeps surviving. It's a very resilient sign. It's an emotional water sign, but it's also at the same time the only water sign with Mars also representing as a a ruling planet, Pluto and Mars. So as a water sign, having Mars in there, and the Scorpion has this little tail, it's the only water sign that will really fight back, and especially when a Scorpio, whatever placement you have in there, or if you have a lot of planets in your 8th house, you can have that scorpionic energy even though you're not a Scorpio. It's the only one that will really fight back. It's very fixated and passionate about whatever it wants or whatever it believes in. So it's very deep. And as this Pluto and Scorpio generation kind of slowly grew up, then you're just, it's like a lot of reincarnations of these souls have experienced various plagues, wars, trauma, abuse, all this stuff that we have learned from previous lifetimes and are coming into this lifetime to kind of somehow bring into awareness and transform what was not working very well and exposing the truth of it, positive, negative, however you want to interpret it. So you kind of see that in today's time. This generation is also kind of like the one since, like when you become accustomed to something, it's normalized. So think of it as a generation that is used to a lot of trauma and dysfunction, things that just don't work in a healthy way. And so just as a generational, if you believe in reincarnation and past lifetimes, they just know it well. So it's kind of, this is the generation that's kind of holding space or holding strong, kind of helping the other generations kind of calm down and not freak out as much. So this way, people can stay strong during difficult times. They tend to be deep healers. Your definition of a healer can be anyone from a doctor, mental health professional, like a massage therapist, a coach, counsel, mentor, shaman, what else did anyone who can just kind of help heal someone. Yes. Is that all I want to say about Pluto and Scorpio? So that is me, for example. A little bit about myself, since I'm still doing this as a new thing, even though I haven't posted in a little while. I have personally gone through several different tidbits of kind of like, you could say, mental health problems, but never to the verge where it has really like broken me down that much. So like growing up doing ballet, you got this kind of eating disorder kind of thing. I never went full throttle on that, but like almost trying to starve yourself to be skinny, bulimia, anorexia, I'm very familiar with. Not that I have personally done that, but I have attempted, but thankfully failed because I love food. So I'm familiar and have interest in that, and the mentality of why people do it, and how hard it really is to change if you have that kind of mental challenge and visual challenge of seeing yourself not in the way that you would want. So yes, that's a short story on that. I have also kind of witnessed illness, cancer throughout my entire childhood. So very familiar with the process of death, cancer, chemo, hospitals, how that affects the whole family unit, how that affects the finances, how hopefully if you have a strong family unit, you can work together, even though it's not ideal and it's not fun, and trying to still live your own life while there are these uncontrollable things that you just, it's out of your scope of knowledge to actually fix. So just growing up knowing that, understanding the true feeling and emotions of grief and death, burden, feeling alone, or having a lot of peers, classmates, friends who, especially at a younger age, don't comprehend what you're actually going through, and you have no one to really talk to about it, especially if your family has a dysfunction of not knowing how to communicate as effectively as it could be. relationship issues. So that's pretty common for a lot of people. Withholding the truth, which is very damaging to a relationship. I did not do that, but when you also learn or did not learn good communication skills from your family dynamics or your role models, then there can be like missing elements when it comes to your personal one-on-one relationships. So that can kind of translate over, and you have to work on it, practice it, just like going to school. So that part, I have been doing personal training with weights for almost 10 years now. This is the year 2024. So for like 10 years, training various types of clients, various mental beliefs, fears, anxieties, egos, injuries, things like that, and working with people on their own pace. I recently graduated for mental health counseling as a graduate student. So my path, for me personally, you can go to my playlist and look at my chart placements if you're interested in more astrology things, or what is more of a background of me and what is my purpose. Everyone has their own purpose, but I love all this healing, helping through sometimes unconventional ways, because as time changes, your life changes, environments change, the people change in it, the solutions might have to change, or the tools that you use in order to make it through that period of time can change over time depending. So I'm also into astrology, that's why I have this channel, because just like a side fun thing that I just tend to analyze, I like to witness, I like to think creatively, and I'm very open-minded in how that may help or relate to that particular individual's purposes, challenges, blah, blah, blah. So yes, So that is a little tidbit on the Pluto and Scorpio generation, as well as a tiny bit of me, but that's not what this video is about. And then I wanted to jump over into Pluto in Capricorn, because right now we're in, I believe, retrograde in Capricorn, until like November for the very final time. I am a Capricorn sun sign, and I also have Mercury and Neptune in there, and that is in my 4th house. If you want to see more on that, go to my playlist section or scroll down to other videos. But the Pluto in Capricorn generation, the oldest ones right now are probably around the age 16-ish, 15, 16. And this is the year 2024. I haven't memorized the dates of when the actual Pluto in Capricorn generation were. And the last little bits have been born, or the last few are going to be born within these next couple months, and those babies are going to be in Pluto retrograde Capricorn. And retrograde is just like an illusion of it's spinning the opposite way, or it's just slowing down. So think of retrogrades as a period of reflecting, thinking things over, or if you were born in a retrograde planet, whatever planet that is, it's like you have to really learn about that energy in this lifetime. Or if you were born just imagine if that is a real thing, if you don't believe in it. If you were born in previous lifetimes, 1 or 1,000, you didn't quite get this energy yet. If you were supposed to learn it in a previous lifetime and you didn't quite get it, you're now here to review it a little bit more intensely, kind of like repeating the grade. So Pluto and Capricorn generation, the kids that are born under this transit, they are going to have the major responsibility of rebuilding. I'm not a fortune teller or a psychic or anything like that. I do not claim to be. I tend to have strong intuition, yet doubt myself a lot. And I'm just a very creative analyzer. So I'm very open-minded to a variety of paths. But that doesn't mean that what I say is true. I'm not claiming that. But it's something to observe. That's what I'm trying to point out. So if you're interested, then hopefully this is interesting. Pluto and Capricorn generation are here to build from the ground up. Capricorn is about building something of substance, greatness, something that the Capricorn energy will feel proud of internally because they did it. There's a lot of setbacks, delays, hardships, struggles, obstacles, but the Capricorn will always try and climb up, even though it's pushed down, climb up, push down, climb up, push down. Think of it as, a really good stock to buy into, not a stock or investment that, goes down. It can, right? Or plateaus, so it depends, right? So not everyone is the same. Not all Capricorns are the same. And as an entire generation of about 15 years, it's impossible to assume that every single Pluto and Capricorn, individual is going to actually do that. But some may. So as a group, they're here to rebuild. So you might see a lot of that generation love. What do you call it? Is it Minecraft? Or whatever the game is where they're building civilizations and cities or whatever from scratch. What do they need? So that is their kind of what they're good at a very instinctual level. They just have it in them. And hopefully they have the resiliency, perseverance, will, and determination to keep that up, and there's going to be moments of normal human, setbacks or feeling like a failure, or periods of, I don't know, whatever. So as they're growing up, we're going to see this more and more. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do, what they come up with. Capricorn also represents time. So since I'm a Capricorn sun, I am very into efficiency with time because you don't get time back. There's still 24 hours in a day unless, a group of people want to change the calendar or how that operates. At this moment, it is 24 hours a day. You don't get it back. So how do you make time? Capricorn is also about making money and career work. How do you make all of that so efficient for the time and the money so that way not everyone feels drained, overworked, they work or stress to the point of creating their own illness, or creating more frustration or anxiety, whatever, to their offspring, which is not healthy. You don't want to create this cycle of doing the same thing over and over again, but it's not really working. So, it'll be very fascinating to watch this generation rebuild. And with that, it's almost kind of like intimidating, scary, fearful, as well as, you can be optimistic and be like, hey, we need the change, and unfortunately things have to kind of break down, decay. Everything feels like a hot mess, hell, dysfunctional, whatever you want to perceive it as. And just like, okay, how do we start over, and how do we make it better than how it was before? Because how it was before, there are all these loopholes, flaws, manipulation, fraudulent money, all this power hierarchy with corporations, political systems, government. And so that is not, that's not good for the whole collective. Someone's vacuuming outside. Hopefully that didn't interrupt too much of my voice. Doesn't project very well, so hopefully you can still hear me. So what was I saying? Yeah, Capricorn also represents hierarchy, money, kind of like government. Think of supply chain management, how things are organized and work together on think of like just a corporation. You got the head honchos and the people, it's almost like a pyramid system, and so what works for the whole, what are people's motivations, purpose? Do they actually like what they do, or are they just there? Are they actually productive? Are they not productive? What do they need? What makes them want to work hard? Or, if you can't overgive, because most people, when they overgive, they get taken advantage of, so it gets very complicated. But thinking about all of those things and how to rebuild and make it a lot better, and trying to figure out how not to have these kind of power and control plays, or taking advantage of a system that is supposed to help everyone, so everyone can make a living and participate, not be lazy, or because if no one had to work, you'd have to hope that your food, your water supply, your housing would just happen on its own. So that would be interesting with robots and technology, because that can change the game quite a lot, as well as AI, and incorporating that and seeing, how well that works, or, do robots eventually have their own consciousness, so that can be kind of iffy, or, interesting. So is that all I would say with Capricorn? So it's like, we're kind of seeing the breakdown of government, breakdown of corporations, hierarchy, kind of like class systems a little bit, it's not working as well as it probably could be working out. Or just seeing the exposure, because Pluto is the exposure of the unhidden, secrets, sneaky, manipulative. I'm not saying that Scorpio is manipulative or anything, though any sign can, but it's kind of thinking of other people's resources, other people's money. So it's like exposing all of the things that just do not work in the Capricorn, what do you call it? Like what it represents overall. So these kids, at least they're kids for now, to me, they're gonna grow up slowly over time, because this is not a fast, Pluto is not a fast transit. So as they grow up, we're gonna continue to see this breaking down of an old system and a rebuilding of a new one. So I think that's pretty much it for the Capricorn stuff. So we can tap into Sagittarius, the Pluto and Sagittarius generation. Probably right now the oldest are around 28, 29 years old, and the youngest would probably be 16, 17, wherever that Capricorn ends, and it kind of waves in between, because when the Pluto sign planet retrogrades and goes back into a new sign and then back into the old sign until it finally shifts permanently into the new sign. That's what I was doing. I don't even remember what I was talking about. But Pluto in the Sagittarius generation, they are the freedom fighters. If you know a Sagittarius, they have to be free. Fire loves to be free, passionate. You can't put a blanket over fire, because the fire will die. You can't trap the fire. They have to feel free. All the fire signs have to have this kind of feeling of independence and passion, because fire represents passion. So they tend to be like freedom fighters. They fight for a cause, very passionate about it. They also represent, like Sagittarius is actually like a guru or a teacher, philosopher, religious leader. It's about multiculturalism, wanting to learn about all the people, all the colors of people, wherever you come from, all the countries, traveling, international traveling to very foreign, distant lands that, if you're someone who's only traveled within your own city or your own state, traveling internationally to a country that is extremely different from you. So if you grew up like in America, where I am at, try and explore a country that is not a Western civilization country, that will feel kind of like intimidating for a group of people, but very interesting to like a Sagittarius or other sign. But a Sagittarius is being extremely broad and open-minded to all the different religions, all the cultures, all the languages, all the different ways that a human being can live their life. So they are explorers, so how a Western civilization person lives life in a big city, you're both, can live an extremely different life than someone in a completely polar opposite, or everything that's in between. And you are both human beings, and you're both breathing. You both have, hopefully, 2 arms and 2 legs, but there are, a few that don't, whether born that way or a traumatic thing happened. you're still living beings having a human experience, unless you're not human, in disguise or something. And, you're just living completely different lifestyles, completely different belief systems, mindsets, ways of just doing your daily habits and such and such. So they have that ingrained into them. And so they're more into travel, more into exploring. They are more likely to change the educational system, because you might be seeing it today, depending on how in tune you are with the news or not, or trying to just like tune it out. The school systems have been kind of slowly changing. A big shaker of that was the COVID lockdown. How they had to, not this particular group, but as they're growing up, there are these big turning events that are just forcing the school systems to change. So how do we adapt to this change? So there's more online school. When kids are sick, do they participate in online so they can still participate? Or, all kinds of stuff can happen. Or just like what is being taught, like when I was doing my internship with juveniles, a lot of them are very truant, or they skip school quite a lot, and there can be a multitude of factors to that as well. But some of the comments were like, they don't learn real stuff, like they don't learn real life things in school, so school is very boring, or they feel like school is stupid. And these kids, like, they are not afraid to kind of break the rules, or not just comply because someone said you should do it. They grew up in more turbulent households where you kind of don't do what everybody else does. Not to get so deep into that, because that's something else, and there's all kinds of variety with that too. But Pluto and Sagittarius generation is most likely going to change and restructure how school is going to be, what is important, what needs to be incorporated more, how it's done, how long you're in school. So like, think about these things of Sagittarius, of like international travel, foreign lands, learning about different cultures and how they approach school, learning, how are their kids kind of self-regulating their emotions, how do they feel safe, are they more willing to learn, are they more creative and find creative problems to solutions, or compared to other countries and cultures, is it actually working, because there's only so much time where you do something over and over and over again, and if you keep getting the same or similar result that doesn't seem efficient with money and time, which we're seeing with universities, the cost of it. And then most of us tend to not even go into a job that's related to that degree. Mine wasn't. My bachelor's degree was in fine art. The stress of just competing and getting into a school or into a college in that university that has anything to do with what you want to do, or if there's even a way to make a living with whatever you wanted to do, or even if that school in the location that you could afford to get accepted to, do they even have a program that's related to what you want to do? Because not every single school has the exact same programs, and if they did, that would be very limiting, which is not good. So that group, in their various ways, we might be seeing that. It's just Sagittarius is one of those teaching, learning, higher philosophical, like think of PhDs or, the people who create the textbooks. So anyone who's really good at breaking things down to small details, they might be more highlighted in this, or who are able to communicate those ideas really well. They may stand out, or groups of people, because there are billions of people in the world, so it's impossible to please just one group. And then thinking that, everyone is a separate group. At the end of the day, most people want the same thing. Want to be able to live their life, be pretty comfortable, have some kind of purpose in life, because when you're so bored out of your mind, or you get everything that you want so easily, you may still feel a sense of emptiness inside. So I love astrology with helping with that, finding your purpose, finding what, what possible likes, dislikes, struggles, childhood upbringing, blah, 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 what were you supposed to experience in this life? And it doesn't always have to be career related. But, if we're going to have a life, like experience or do something with it, whatever your definition of that is. So yeah, so that's probably all I want to say with and the time where Pluto was in Sagittarius was the most free we all were to travel, because it's about international travel, and you can kind of start blending this in with the Pluto and Capricorn, because everything is connected at the end of the day. They're not dissected, and not everything is like black and white. They start blending, so think of like a gradient or a painting. It starts blending into the next color. So because Sagittarius came before Capricorn, Pluto being in Sagittarius when this group of people were being born, that was the time where it was the easiest for us to travel. Security and stuff wasn't as strict, at least in Western civilizations, before 9/11 happened. And then we had some really intense security. You had to take your shoes off. You had to have all the fluids at a certain size or in Ziploc baggies separated outside of your bag, and laptops outside of your bag. All these things came more so with that. If you've traveled internationally more recently, depending on which airport, what country you're at, they have different rules, and some of their technology has advanced more to where you don't have to take out every single liquid in a Ziploc bag anymore, separated and stuff like that. So security was the most lenient, I think, during that time period. And when I was talking about blending it in with the Capricorn thing, as well as the Pluto in Leo generation, which is that would be your older folk, in their 70s, their generation, where there's more of a status, or look at me, I can't afford to travel internationally, therefore I am part of a wealthy group of people, or a wealthier, higher class group of people, if you're able to do so. So it was kind of this showy off period of time where if you're able to travel internationally and learn about these things, it means you're like of a higher class. Whereas now, it's probably more, people are more comfortable with flying. Flying is a little bit nicer than it was in the past. As a millennial, I remember when I was really young, the super long flights, like flying from Houston to Thailand, literally takes about 42 hours total, like in an airplane as well as layovers. It's usually a rough, if you get lucky, maybe 30 hours or so to like 42. And back then, you didn't have these personalized TV screens in front of you. There's either nothing, or you get like a tiny pop-down screen on the aisles, maybe several seats in front of you, or if you're lucky, depending on where your seat was, it's kind of close, and then like a projected middle screen that's very faded in the center on the airline's time, not your time, and they chose the movie. You didn't get to choose the movie. So you got what you got, and if you're a kid, there's no booster seat or anything so you could see, and so you had to learn how to entertain yourself for that long of a period of time, stuck on an airplane in a small seat. In today's world, you can be entertained so easily. On one of those long flights, you get your own personal screen, you have a huge selection of TV shows, music, movies, games, all kinds of stuff. So things have changed quite a lot. So yes, I think that's it for the Pluto and Sagittarius. And then, what is next? I guess we can do Pluto in Leo. So I haven't researched Pluto in Leo as much, but Leo, there's always good and bad to every single sign, okay? And it depends on your own personal perspectives, what you have healed, for you to interpret what, you don't click with as much as other signs. But Leo is a fixed fire sign, and it represents entertainment, being entertaining, kind of showy, because it's like the spotlight. It represents the sun, which is the most popular sign that everyone kind of identifies with for their zodiac. So it's like being on stage, having the spotlight on you. The sun is really bright, but also wherever the sun sign is, it burns that sign or house that it's in at the same time. In a healthy, nice visual, Leo is like a really great leader. It's a really great leader, as well as has a really big heart, so and it also wants to be happy. It wants to be sun, not darkness. It wants to be the light. It wants to be happy all the time, feel good, have like good energy, has a big heart, will give a lot because it's like big bright sun. So that can also be bad, because when they give a lot, or a lot in comparison to what they're going to get, you can dim that sun or the emotions of a Leo, especially over and over again. But it's like a leader. So the Pluto in Leo generation, or our older group. Oh, now I remember which one I skipped the Pluto in Libra. But Pluto and Leo, I'll just tap in, like they're gonna be the ones who changed and transformed entertainment. Yeah, they changed entertainment. So music, television, it's like slowly introduced. So that's the group of people where if you were the family who owned a TV, you know, you were probably one of the few who first got one in your neighborhood, and all the kids or whatever would come to your house and watch the black and white TV that only had like 1 to 3 stations on, only at a given period of time. And they revolutionized the music industry, and how that kind of was brought into light, or how that was expanded. So yeah, change and transform that. That's like the most that I can really think about. Also starting to think about like how to be a little bit more showy, or you know, showing the, I can't say too much because I haven't gone too deep into that generation. I'm just trying to reflect what was happening during that time, even though that's the time before I was born. But it's a generation where those parents, you know, because like my mom and dad are Pluto in Leo generation, and so they kind of want their kids to make them look good, what makes the family look good, like presentation. So you have more like this shame, like if you don't, you know, like do what the family wants or make the family look good or whatever, there's going to be more like shame inflicted onto you if you don't. So that's just like a family possible interpretation of how that was kind of taught to the younger generations. And for example, Pluto and Scorpio, you're kind of like exposing what was not quite right about it. And that's very individual, okay? Everyone has a different background. So I can't say that that is exactly how every Pluto and Leo group is gonna be like. So I'll just skip the rest of the Pluto and Leo for what I can come up with right now. I have no like plan sheet or anything in front of me. So the Pluto in Libra generation, this is a group, so Libra represents relationships, other people, not yourself, your business partnerships, contracts, legal agreements. So marriage is a big one, or like when you create a corporation or business or partnership in a business-like way, usually sign some kind of contract. So this population are the ones who have the greatest amount of divorce. So they changed and transformed what relationships look like, and kind of normalizing the abnormal, or what is the perfect family image of what that looks like, with a nice house, dog, and white picket fence, with a perfect little happy family, because that's not how easy real relationships are. or relationships that are more fulfilling are, because it's really messy, because someone else is not you. You have to compromise. And this group kind of showed what was kind of dysfunctional about how we approach marriage and our life partner, like what is healthy, not healthy, blended families, or much more normalized now, especially at least in Western civilization. You see a ton of divorce, broken families, single parent families. So there's a huge group of these families who come from Pluto in Libra generation, because there's something within their belief system, what used to be normal or considered the right way of doing things, and they're just not happy, or they're getting into abusive relationships, or not learning how to question and communicate or properly date before a marriage happened, until things kind of slowly crumbled and fell apart, or could not be resolved, communicated, misunderstood, misinterpreted, afraid to be vulnerable, afraid to be rejected or abandoned, fear of not being loved for who you are. So there's like a bigot, approach or attitude, so you're not lonely, or you have someone. Also a period of time where the woman in the workforce was still transitioning and fighting, so it was very common still to you just get married, to just be a wife and mom. But if you happen to marry an abusive partner who had power and control over you, or had control of all the finances, and you can't get out, you can't be independent and make your own living, it's very hard to get out of something like that, as well as financially make it, so it's like this transition time of, you get in a relationship for security, but not for, you can, but not everyone was able to get into relationships where it's about mutual respect, knowing what you want, and being able to compromise on some things if it's really worth it to be with that person for a long period of time, or actually get married. Because if you're gonna be with someone else, you do have to bend a little bit, but what are your personal boundaries, non-negotiables, I can't speak, but you cannot have it your way all the time. Otherwise, just be with yourself, and don't get other people's emotions and what they want in life to bow down to you all the time. So, the approach on relationships are just different. So that's what we mainly saw with that generation. It's just change and transformation in relationships, and deep subconscious stuff of what doesn't work in relationships, as well as psychological. So Pluto's, Scorpio, psychological sign. If you don't heal childhood trauma, any kind of, complicated parent dynamics with you, yourself. If you don't heal it, just forgive it and say, like, my parents tried the best during the time period and situation of what they knew how, because there's no parent manual, and every kid has their own personality. If you have a ton of siblings, you do not all have the same personality, and parents have to juggle and manage all of those different wants and needs, and not everyone's needs and wants and emotions require the same kind of approach or whatever it is. So it's very psychological, what I was going to say. Sometimes if you don't heal like what you did not get or need from one or both parents, you tend to seek that love and attention through a partner. It's just not your parent, so it's kind of creepy, You're trying to seek the love and attention of that parent in a partner. Sometimes, if it's like very deep, it's just sexual. I don't know if that comes off really twisted and gross, but it can. So if it does, try and heal it, because at the end of the day, that's something going on with you. If you keep getting into relationships that, they end up not going the way you want, or they're unhealthy, or whatever it is, you can blame only so much on the other person. At the end of the day, if you notice that pattern, there's something about yourself that is either repelling the type of person that you want, or there's something about you that's kind of stuck in your own ways, belief systems that it just ends up not working out, because at the end of the day, you have to compromise with someone else, and you have to know what you want in the future. What does your own future look like? If you don't know what it wants, you can eventually kind of like split paths years later, when you can't agree, and you have like, well, I didn't know you wanted to go live in Timbuktu or whatever and start your own Buddhist school or something. Like, I had no idea you wanted to do that, or that was like anywhere near something. If I knew that a long time ago, then I would have chose someone else. That's just one tiny, like, really out there example. But if you don't know what you want, you're always wishy-washy, which there's nothing really wrong with that. But when you're working with someone else, you kind of have to know some kind of ballpark of a what if kind of scenario or situation. And if that's like, oh hell no, I'm not gonna deal with that, you can't. Like, I'm staying right here whether you like it or not. And if you're so miserable or whatever, then I'm the wrong person for you. If you know that you won't like it, so much that would need to be discussed before like a serious commitment, especially if you have kids. It's easy to break up. It's not easy, but it's easier to just break up or get a divorce and you lose assets and money. Hopefully not ridiculously bad, but when you throw a child or children into the mix, it's a lot harder, and you're damaging that future generation or that particular child that I hope that you love and have good intentions for. So would you question if you are a safe parent for your child? Do you think make good decisions, for the sake of your child's safety? And if you don't know that answer, you might not be ready yet. But if it happens, it happens, and hopefully you're the type who is willing to learn and be open-minded. I would think that people who are into astrology are at some level willing to learn and explore who they are a little bit more. I find people who are actually into astrology, they're just trying to find a much deeper investigative way of learning about themselves as well as other people in a creative, kind of unusual way. So yeah, so that is Pluto through not all the signs, but the more relevant signs during the time that I'm alive. You know, I don't know if a video like this is going to exist while I'm far long gone. So, you know, the Pluto in Pisces, Pluto in Aries, you know, if I'm like super old, I'll be like 90 something if that happens. So I hope you like my long random chat about Pluto in the generations and what to kind of expect in the world events too, small and large and individually. So as each of these generations grow, evolve, mature, they're bringing that Pluto in whatever zodiac sign kind of to the forefront, or to influence their community, one-on-one personal connections, or on a bigger platform, whatever is meant for that person, as well as what that individual choices are and what they're willing to do, what they're willing to risk, blah blah blah. So yes, my name is Natasha. Hope you like my video. Sorry for my blah blah speech. I do have Chiron in Gemini, so if you have Chiron in Gemini, go search for it in my playlist. I have Gemini in the 9th house in Sagittarius. So Chiron and Gemini in the 9th house of Sagittarius. There we go. So if you see my discombobulation with words, like I used to be almost a mute. So you can make fun of me, please don't. But I used to like hardly talk at all. I was more observant, and that stuff, communicating into little breakdown words, is harder, or learning languages harder for me. Sad. Okay, bye.